part of what you need to do as a business person. And that's why I still keep going back to vision. When you have a vision, at different stages, there are some strategic steps that you need to take to move to the next level. When people don't have a vision, their capacity to grow is very limited, because they will always have situations where they didn't plan for, that they now get to, and then they now stuck until they can now figure out how to now move to the next level. They're wasting time. One mistake many people make that hinders their potential, that they don't know, is you keep comparing yourself with somebody else. That's a big mistake.
Now, what do you think are the reasons why people stop dreaming?
Success. Success sometimes makes you stop dreaming. If you are going to maximize your potential, every obstacle is a stepping stone. The option of turning back does not exist. It's a mindset.
What's the process of hiring staff? Like, typically, if you want to hire staff, what's the process you go through when it comes to hiring staff? And also, what's the process you go through when it comes to firing non-performing staffs or erring staffs or staff that are outrightly bad?
When you're hiring staff, staff are at three broad levels. When you are looking to hire, say, a managing director, the process you take is different from when you want to hire an entry-level staff. If it's an entry-level staff, you could just simply do an advert in Jobberman or any of those social media platforms. If it is even non-skilled staff, you can just tell all your staff, look, if you have any friends, if you have anybody that is looking for a job, this kind of job, bring their CV and let us interview them. So at that level, that process is good enough. You know, you get their CVs, create a small panel, interview them, look for whether they fit into the job, look for whether they fit into the culture of the business, look for whether they fit into the profile you are trying to create, and so on and so forth. When you're looking for an MD, then you are doing what you call job hunting. You might need to hire a professional human resource firm that will now say, okay, I know people who are general manager levels in this company, in that company, in that company. I can go and talk to them.
So you move to you must be working in a different company, then you go there and talk to them.
Why you want to hire a managing director who is not currently a very senior executive somewhere else? Why are you giving him that kind of responsibility? Okay. So if I'm looking for a managing director of a bank, for example, obviously anybody that I'm going to interview must either be a general manager or executive director in an existing bank.
It must not be, maybe the person is unemployed, she's not at home.
You want to get at that level. Entry level, any unemployed person is a candidate. At the middle level is a combination of both.
Okay.
So you're looking for people who you can train. You're also looking for people who have a little bit of experience and knowledge and skills. So the person may or may not be in employment and so on and so forth. Okay. At an MD level, no. If you're that good, why are you unemployed?
Okay, continue.
So that's for hiring. Of course, before you even hire you know what you're looking for, what kind of skills, what kind of qualifications, what kind of job experience. Are you looking for male or female sometimes? What age bracket, and so on and so forth. Where is the person's job going to be located at? Is it a job that a married woman would want to take? Because there are some jobs that require you to travel a lot that maybe a married woman may not want that kind of job, and so on and so on. So you need to do a proper assessment of the job and the kind of person that you need for that job. So that's on that level. In terms of firing, first of all, there are rules and there are laws. Secondly, you must have company policies. What are the offenses somebody can commit that warrants the person to be fired? Because you can't just wake up and say, I don't like you, I fire you. No, the person will take you to industrial court.
In Nigeria.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Maybe because you've not. Oh, yes. It does exist, and people have won significant damages. Oh, yes.
Seriously?
Oh, yes. There are laws. There are laws. So you must have company policy of what offenses will lead to termination, what offenses will lead to a summary dismissal, because there's a difference between summary dismissal and termination.
Explain that, you guys.
Summary dismissal means as you are dismissed now, you are not entitled to any money. Termination means you will be given notice and you will be paid till the last day of your terminal date. Summary dismissal, you are dismissed today and you are gone, and no payment will be made. So the offense that needs to be committed for someone to be summarily dismissed is higher than the offense that someone needs to commit to be terminated. You can be terminated for poor performance. You can't be summarily dismissed for poor performance. Summary dismissal requires either fraud case or you fought physically and injured somebody inside the office. Things like that are behavior that is totally unwarranted.
Sexual harassment and all of that.
Sexual harassment, if it is proven, and then it also depends on what level of harassment. If it is just somebody saying something negative about somebody of the opposite sex, that may not require summary dismissal. That might be termination. But if somebody attempted rape, for example, that's summary dismissal. So the gravity of the offense. And then in terms of termination too, there are rules. So if somebody is not performing well, for example, you have to give the person a warning. You have to give the person time to correct that. And then if the person doesn't correct it after a period of time, then you can terminate. For fraud, it's summary dismissal. For stealing, summary dismissal. For false documentation, summary dismissal, and so on and so forth. So there must be rules, because there are laws that govern employment contracts. Every employment is a contract, by the way. So there are laws that govern those contracts, and you must follow the rules.
Okay, now when it comes to for the employment part of it, do you usually have? Is it depend on the business that you specify the kind of people you employ, or depending on the role?
Both. So if you have a bank, for example, the kind of jobs people do in a bank is different from the kind of jobs people do in a hospital. In a hospital, I need nurses, I need doctors. In a bank, I need customer service staff, I need operation staff, I need marketing staff, and so on and so forth. So the business, the nature of the business, and the roles that you are trying to fill determines the kind of people you hire.
Interesting. Okay, now when it comes to someone growing in business, why do you think it got to a point whereby people grow in business and get to a particular level
and they plateau?
Yes, and they couldn't just go past that stage. They just get stuck in that particular level. They keep struggling. They cannot get past that particular stage. Why do you think is the reason why someone get past a particular level that is more like he's stuck in it at that level?
Reason number one, for example, is if I'm running a shop in one location and I'm the one that takes all the decisions, I can't run a shop in 5 locations. Because if I'm to run in 5 locations, then some other people have to be taking decisions. So, first reason is, how am I functioning? Am I the everything? So if you are the one that goes to you're the only one that goes to the bank, you're the only one that signs all the checks, you're the only one that determines all the prices, you're the only one that, you can't have multiple locations. So that's issue number one. Issue number two, so that means that for every new level, you must change the way you function. So that's very important. The second one is you have to also look at, if you're plateauing, maybe you are stuck in a particular sector that is not growing. So if I'm doing what sector can I think of now? If I'm running a school and I have only space for 500 students, if I don't expand that school, I can't go beyond 500. I'm already limited by my capacity, by my infrastructure. Some other sector, it could just be that the sector is not growing. And if the sector is not growing, then it means I must either pick up business from some other person that is still within the same sector, either by buying them or by taking their customer, or I need to now go into another sector in order to continue to grow. So the first reason you need to ask is it the way you are functioning that is limiting you from growing? If not, then the next question is it my infrastructure that is limiting me from growing? If not, then the third question is it my industry? For example, if I'm selling bread and I'm only in Lagos, if I want to grow, sometimes I might need to open another bakery in Abuja or in Port Harcourt in order to address another market. So, but if I'm the only one taking all the decisions, if I have to also test the bread before it can be released, I can't test in Port Harcourt, I can't test in Abuja. Which means that if I can't find people that will do the job I'm doing in Lagos, in Abuja and Port Harcourt, I can't grow. I've plateaued.
So it has to be based on the industry and the person.
First is your person. Second is your location or your infrastructure. Third is your industry.
Wow. Okay, then if it's in some industry, you said it's good for the person to switch into a different.
You could either think of taking customers from your competitors, or buying some of your competitors, or considering expanding to other industries and sectors.
What if it is because of maybe the person needed more funds to move out of that particular stage, but the person is growing? It's not really because of infrastructure or things like that, but just more funds the person needs to put in to grow past a particular level. What would the person do?
Part of what you need to do as a business person, and that's why I keep going back to vision. When you have a vision, at different stages, there are some strategic steps that you need to take to move to the next level. So when there's a vision, you must have a plan. When I get to this point and I need money, what am I going to do? You don't wait till you get to that point before you now start trying to answer that question. You answer that question before you get to that point. So you will have prepared for that next phase. That is also part of why when people don't have a vision, their capacity to grow is very limited, because they will always have situations where they didn't plan for, that they now get to, and then they now stuck until they can now figure out how to now move to the next level. They're wasting time. But because they didn't consider it before. So sometimes the way you are structured to get to this level might hinder you from getting to this level. So you have to, as you are moving, you must constantly be thinking about how are you structured in order to move to the next level. Because some things that you currently do might hinder you from moving to that next level.
Okay. Now you're talking about the person did not think of it. Okay, now let's look at it as though the person is already at that stage now. Maybe the person didn't factor it in his planning. The person is at the stage now. What should the person do right now to move past that particular stage that you know that it just finance that he needs to boost himself out of that stuck stage?
Remember I said at the beginning that raising capital is a skill every entrepreneur has to develop.
Okay.
And the reason why I said so is that if you don't develop those skills, there are things, when you want to raise capital, there are things that either banks or investors are looking for. So if you've not developed the skill and prepare yourself to be able to present those things they are looking for. Your capacity, the possibility or your potential to raise money will be significantly limited. So, for example, rule number one in making money is, if you can't show that you are making profits, how would anybody want to give you more money? Either as a banker or as an investor. But when you are showing that you are making profits, you have to also deal with the government, because the government will come for their taxes. So many entrepreneurs have run into the trouble of trying to dodge government tax by underreporting their profits. But when they now need money to move to the next level, they have already shot themselves in the foot.
Okay. I do that. I don't know that. So that can work for
it definitely will work against you, because when you now go to the bank and they say, where are your records? Where are the records you filed? You didn't make profit last year. No.
That's a problem on its own.
I think it's a problem on its own.
Wow. So you have to just be declaring the actual results.
You see, at the end of the day, that's why I keep on going back to the fact that it's vision. First of all, from a long-term perspective, it's safer for you to find how to declare the actual results, because we're still developing. At some point, our tax collecting systems will become more sophisticated. And one of the problems of taxes is that they can do an audit of 10 years and bring a bill that you have to pay. So you don't want to have dodged for 10 years before somebody comes up and says, Oga, this is their bill. So that's very important. But secondly, all those things affect your capacity to raise money in future, either from banks or from other investors, because your figures don't show the quality of the profits that you are making, and that will always be negative.
Wow. Now, what do you think are the 5 reasons why people stop dreaming?
I think the first one is failure. Okay. Children, all children have dreams. Why? They've not experienced failure. But for many of us, as we experience failures, many of us now build a safety net around ourselves by saying, in order not to fail next time, maybe I shouldn't even attempt it. Unfortunately, that creates a bigger problem, which is the problem of lack of fulfillment. So failure.
Okay, that's number 1.
I also say fear.
Fear. Okay.
It's not exactly the same as failure, but it's similar. Some people, after they failed a few times, they are afraid of failing again. They are afraid of the embarrassment. So that is also another problem. The third one sometimes is success. Success sometimes makes you stop dreaming.
Seriously?
You feel you have arrived. I've been dreaming of owning a house in Ikoyi, of having a brand new Mercedes. Now I have a house in Ikoyi and I have a brand new Mercedes. What am I looking for again? Don't you see sometimes they say somebody retired at 35, set up an IT company, sold it for $100 million and retired at 35.
Wow.
Success.
Okay. That's number 3.
Lack of vision.
Lack of vision. Number 4. Okay.
That hunger to make a mark in life. Some people are only interested in, you know what, just leave me alone. My wife, myself, my children. I'm not interested in all this wahala. Because to make a dream happen, it takes a lot of effort. It takes sacrifice. So for many people, the effort is too much. All right, so point number 5, why people stop dreaming, is retirement. The way retirement works is that when you get to that point when you retire, if you are not ready to become an entrepreneur, you're stuck. You just sit down at home. At that point, you're unemployable by most institutions. So many people just feel that it's just time for them to wait for them to die. But what I've discovered is that some of the biggest successes in life came from people after the age of 60. Warren Buffett, who I've studied for a long time, made over 98% of his current wealth today after the age of 50. Yes.
Wow.
He became a billionaire after the age of 50. He's currently worth over $100 billion. The man that started KFC started it at the age of 65. So Mandela came out of prison at over 70. Retirement is a fallacy. I recommend to most people, don't let that become a hindrance to your life.
Interesting. Okay, now you've been talking about dreaming big. How can people start dreaming big?
Very good question. The first thing, if you really want to start dreaming big, is you have to work on what I call your potential.
Potential.
Potential is simply, let me use a newborn baby as an example. A newborn baby girl that was born 5 minutes ago has the potential to be a great grandmother with 100 grandchildren and great grandchildren before she leaves this life.
That's the potential.
That's the potential. That's still a baby. Doesn't even know her right from her left. But that baby has that potential. So the first question, if you want to dream big in life, is to ask yourself, what is your potential? How far can you go in this life? How high can you rise on this life? What's the limit? What are the things that limit you apart from yourself? So until you can assess your potential correctly, you will never dream big.
Wow.
You need to be able to assess your potential correctly. Then you begin to dream big.
Now, what is the strategy for scaling a business globally?
First point is, whatever problems you are solving in your locality must be applicable in other localities.
Okay.
For example, if I'm solving food problems and my specialty is to use amala, my chances of succeeding in China selling amala is not very high because they don't know amala as a product.
That's true.
So, the first question you need to ask yourself is that the problem you are solving, is it localized or it's a problem that permeates national boundaries? Banking, for example, permits national boundaries. Because the service you're providing has no taste. Everywhere in the world, people need banking services. So that's the first question you need to ask yourself. Once you've answered that question, then the second question is, where are gaps in this world, or in other boundaries, or in other nations, or in other environments that I can feel? Because it will be difficult for even, say, Access Bank to go to America today and say they want to compete with JP Morgan Chase. They can't do that. The capacities are different. So that's the next level of question you need to ask, that, okay, even if I want to go to those boundaries, what space, what gap am I going to feel? And then before you now go to the next question of, how do I now go about this? Because there are different laws, all kinds of things, different currencies, different languages. So, but the first question is the problem I'm solving localized or global?
So if it's localized, then you cannot scale it globally.
You can't scale it globally. So if I'm selling amala, until I can create a market for amala in China, I can't go to China.
But it's possible to sell amala to China.
If they don't eat amala, how do I sell amala?
Can't you make it in a way that they will eat it?
That's right. So I have to first create the market. So if I want to go to China, then I must be able to find a way of first creating the market. Now, creating a market is not easy. Because the first question is, why should they listen to you? Who are you? You say I should try amala. Why? You're not a global brand. If you are Coca-Cola that everybody everywhere in the world recognizes, then you can go anywhere. But amala, what is amala? Are you sure it's healthy? What is the chemical composition of amala?
I will not chop and punch.
Exactly. So you have to first create that market before you can go in.
What do you think? Now, when you talk about potential, talked about dreaming big, and you talk about potential and growth. So, what do you think are the 5 enemies of growth and achieving potential?
The 5 enemies of potential. There are many. There are many enemies of potential. I'll give you some interesting ones. Comparison.
Comparison. Okay.
I'm not you. You are not me. If I continue to compare myself with you, I will never achieve my potential. Because we're not the same. A Rolls Royce and a Ferrari are not the same. A Rolls Royce is built for comfort. A Ferrari is built for speed. They're not the same. So, one mistake many people make that hinders their potential that they don't know is you keep comparing yourself with somebody else. That's a big mistake.
Wow.
Comparison.
That's number 1.
Number 1. Number 2. Low self-worth.
Low self-worth. Okay.
Most of us, especially in this part of the world, have, by the color of our skin, determined there's a limit to how far we can go in life. Let me give you an example. When many of us japa, for example,
There is a run away from the country.
yes, we go and do jobs in UK that if they give you in Nigeria, you say, what kind of nonsense is this? Why? Because our self-worth is that if I'm there and I'm sweeping the streets in London, it's still better than working here in Nigeria in a bank. because of the way we see ourselves. Low self-worth.
Wow.
Our mindset hinders our potential.
And number 2.
Low self-worth. Number 3, mindset.
Mindset.
Are you a problem solver in your mind? Do you see obstacles as obstacles, or you see obstacles as stepping stones? Mindset. Do you see Goliath as a blockage, or Goliath as the door to your throne? Mindset. Because if you are going to maximize your potential, every obstacle is a stepping stone. The option of turning back does not exist. It's a mindset. It's a mindset.
Okay. That's 3.
Number 4. Many of us make one very big mistake, which is that you blame others for your failure.
So blaming others for our failures.
What we don't realize when you blame others for your failure is that you have transferred the authority to determine your future to somebody else. Rather than blaming others for our failures, what we need to do is to ask ourselves, what did I do wrong? How did I get to this point? You don't understand. My staff stole 30 million naira from me. And that was all the capital I was using. No, the question is not your staff. The question is you. Number 1, how did you hire a criminal? Number 2, what system are you running that somebody will steal so much from you before you realize he has stolen? See, 2 different ways of looking at the same situation. If you are going to fulfill your potential, you must always look at yourself. Blaming somebody else is an enemy to your potential.
Wow. Number 5.
Number 5. There are many. You know all the points I mentioned about dreaming? They are also applicable to potential. Success, failure, fear. They are all applicable. But let me say this one. If you really want to fulfill potential, you have to have audacity. How can a black man become the president of the United States of America? You must have an audacity that all the limitations that human beings have placed are irrelevant to me. Because even after he has left office for how many years now? Almost 8 years. The black race in America, the situation has not changed. Though. They are still killing blacks on the streets. Oh. They are still arresting blacks. Nothing has changed. But somebody said, the color of my skin is not going to limit me. You must have that audacity.
Interesting. Wow. Now, when in your first point, or in one of your points, you talked about low self-worth, and you talked about the fact that people, just by about color, by where you come from, you begin to think low of yourself. Now, do you think when it comes to building a business, do you think the Nigerian economy or policies or things, the Nigerian environment itself, can hamper growth of fulfilling big dreams and potential? Or do you think there is a way someone can go around it? Because in developed countries, in the West and all of that, there is no limit to whatever achievement you want to achieve based on their policies and the environment. Do you think it's applicable to Nigeria, or the Nigerian environment can hamper growth and long success achievements?
One of the things about potential is you must stop blaming any other person. There's a book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that I recently gave my staff to all read. Why? Because how you look at situations determines your response. You can look at Nigeria in two different ways. You can look at everything in Nigeria and say they are not working and give up. Or you can look at everything in Nigeria that is not working as an opportunity and salivate. The same problems that you're looking at, the same situations that you're looking at, but with a different perspective. So when I look at Nigeria, people see problems, I see opportunities. All those obstacles are opportunities. Even the government regulation that is many times unfavorable is opportunity. How is it opportunity? Very simple. Because it is unfavorable, there are many people that won't go into it. It's too risky. It's too difficult. There's too much uncertainty. So for some of us, wonderful, less competition. It's all about mindset. It's all about mindset. But at the end of the day, when I look at Nigeria, our greatest advantage and strength is also our greatest problem. 200 million. When you read the history of economics, of economies, until the Industrial Revolution, every nation was as wealthy as the population. Because the productivity of every nation was a function of how many human beings. If everybody was working with their hands. It was the advent of the Industrial Revolution, whereby the West that had access to machines increased the productivity of their people by getting people to use machines. The farmland that you can use your hand to harvest is different from the farmland that a tractor can be used to harvest. So that increased significantly the productivity of the Western world. But the advent of the internet age and the global village is now also now making that advantage to now continue to disappear. Because now you can make cars in China and sell in America. You can make computers in Taiwan and sell in Germany. So why do you want to pay somebody in Germany $20 an hour when somebody in Indonesia will do that same job for $2 an hour? So the world is now at that age where that gap is now gradually being eroded. That is why if you notice now in many parts of Europe, everybody is going on strike because they are asking for more pay. But the economists can no longer pay them more because right now, many of those things that they are doing, somebody else can do it for less price. So if we come back to Nigeria, this same population that is our biggest problem can be turned into an advantage. Because this population is a market. This population is potential. At the end of the day, it all boils down to mindset, perspective. What do you see? Is it half empty or half full?
Do you see Nigeria as a free market economy?